Hello and welcome to Cryptid by State, Maryland. Today we are continuing our series with Maryland, which up until recently was involved in a three-way tie for being the next video. I know I say this frequently, but after delving into legends and lore behind this state, I have come to find that this location has some pretty unique creatures. Oddly enough, there is a bit of a battle, with two states claiming ownership of one of the creatures we're going to be discussing. What I found fascinating is that Maryland actually has way more ghost legends than there are cryptids. This always makes it tough when trying to find the flesh and blood denizens of an area. I am sure we will see this happen again when we finally visit Louisiana. So without dragging this out, let's continue our cryptid family road trip as we travel from our previous location of Missouri and head to Maryland. Originally, Maryland was the home to a few Native American tribes, which consisted of the Susquehannocks, Tuscarora, Tocquewog, Piscataway, Nanticoke, Lenape, Tutek, Saponi, and the Shawnee, many of which moved to other locations after wars with other tribes or due to the new settlers. From 1498 to the 1600s, many European explorers were credited with sailing by the area we now know as Maryland, but it wasn't until 1608 when a man named John Smith first actually set foot in the area, and explored it quite a bit. With this exploration, he did make maps of the land, and many are shocked at how accurate they actually are. Then in March of 1632, Sir George Calvert, Lord Baltimore I, was granted the land of Maryland Province by King Charles I. As an interesting fact, the title Lord Baltimore, or sometimes called Baron, was actually a royal manor in Longford County in Ireland. Before Sir Calvert could do anything with this land, he passed away in April. The land was then transferred on June 20th, 1632, to his son Cecilius Calvert, the second Lord of Baltimore. This province was set up with the ideals of religious freedom, and in fact proved a haven for many Catholics. The name, Maryland, has a debated history, but many agree it was a name given in honor of King Charles I's wife, Queen Henrietta Maria. Not long after this, the first settlement was founded by purchasing land from the Piscataway people, and it was called St. Mary's City. With the settlements in the area, Maryland became one of the original 13 colonies. Something that is interesting is that there was a land dispute between Maryland and Pennsylvania due to incorrect maps being used. With the Royal Charter, Maryland was given land that encroached on Pennsylvania and would have included Philadelphia. Due to this dispute, the Calvert family and the Penn family contracted two surveyors by the name of Charles Mason and Jeremiah Dixon in 1750. These two men then set up a distinct boundary line between the areas of land, which did later include Delaware and West Virginia. As many of you probably know, this is the Mason-Dixon line, and the Penn and Calvert family crests were placed on the line as well. At the beginning of the American Revolution, Maryland was not wanting to separate itself from England, but later they did agree after seeing the new government would work. Then on April 28, 1788, Maryland officially became the 7th state of the United States. Now on to the flag. Maryland has one of the more unique looking flags in the US, and in fact it is one of only 4 that doesn't contain the color blue. Although originally it was simply a blue flag with the state seal in the center, and this version was official until the late 1890s. However, the flag we have today is fairly simple in design and history, and it was officially adopted on March 9, 1904. No one is sure who first designed it, but the symbols were commonly used during wars, before being included in the flag. The black and gold lines were from the Calvert family crest, and from what I can tell, doesn't have any deep meanings. The other part of the flag is from the Crossland family crest. It just so happens that Sir George Calvert's mother was Alicia Crossland, and obviously an heir to the bloodline. Apparently, there are specific rules as to how the flag should be displayed, and there is even a rule that some follow while others don't, and that the flagpole needs topped with a golden bottonet. That is all I have history-wise, so let's move on to the cryptids. Let's start with a controversial one, since there are a few places that claim it makes the state its home. This would be the cryptid that many of you should be familiar with, and that is the snallygaster. West Virginia also is said to have this cryptid, but due to another creature in this video being tied to the snallygaster, I have to include it with Maryland. As a note, New Jersey and Ohio also claim that this being has been seen there as well. The snallygaster is said to be a large flying creature that was first reported in the 1730s. Descriptions vary, but it is said to have massive wings, look similar to a deformed dragon with a single eye in its head, a pointed shiny beak filled with razor-sharp teeth, and in some variations, it can have tentacles coming from its mouth. The sound of this creature is quite distinct, since its call is similar to a train whistle. This being was said to make its home primarily in Frederick County in the Blue Ridge Mountains. Originally it was given the name schneller Geist, which was German for quick spirit. It was called such since at night it would silently and quickly swoop down on livestock and even unwary humans. More often than not, it carries its prey off, but in some versions of the story, it will actually suck the victim's blood. Sightings of this cryptid were spotty, with one man claiming that he had been picked up and dropped in the mountains by the beast in 1909. Then in the same year, it was seen flying around Cumberland, Hagerstown, and in the mountains between Gaplin and Burkittsville. Oddly enough, this last sighting was accompanied with the story that the snallygaster was seen laying a giant egg. Finally, in March of 1909, 3 men in Frederick County claimed to fight off the being for over an hour and a half as it tried to attack them in the train yard. Things went silent for 23 years until the same creature was spotted again, and a rash of sightings started all over again. What is really odd is that the final report claims that the creature died from the fumes while flying over a moonshine still. What makes this odd is that the story claims unknown official individuals showed up, destroyed the still, and then disposed of the snallygaster's body. Were they Men in Black from 1932? One way to ward off the snallygaster was to put a 7-pointed star on a barn, which you can still see variations of to this day. However, in a rare twist, this story goes from odd to downright strange, since the snallygaster also has a mortal enemy that is also a cryptid, the dewayo. The dewayo is pretty much a normal dogman by description, other than it having a bushy tail. It walks on its back legs, is 6 feet tall, has dark fur, and a dog or wolf-like head. While many people rely on this being to protect them from the snallygaster, it has been known to attack humans as well. This creature has been spotted or heard for many years. Apparently its howl is quite terrifying, but due to it sounding like a baby crying or a woman screaming, there are other known animals that make those same sounds. In 1944, reports came in from residents in West Middleton who heard strange noises at night and then found large bipedal wolf prints in the day. In November of 1965, a man who wished to remain anonymous but went by the name of John Becker made a police report of his strange encounter. One night he heard strange noises coming from the forest around his house, which was located by Gambrel State Park. When he went outside to see what was causing the commotion, he saw a creature walking towards him that was as big as a bear, but it had shaggy fur, a bushy tail, and it growled like a wolf. As it drew near, it attacked John, and he managed to fight the creature off. At that point, the being ran into the woods, but John's wife and children witnessed the fight as well. From that point, many people reported seeing a similar creature, including a couple of hunters. Then in 1966, a man going only by the name of Jim A. claimed to see a similar creature in the same Gambrel State Park. In 1976, 2 men were driving on a back road in Thurmont, and they witnessed a large bipedal wolfman creature run in front of their car. The description was the same as the others, other than they said that this one had different colored strips of fur on its lower half. Even more interesting, in 1978, 2 park rangers near Cunningham Falls saw this creature as well. As a bit of a twist, the lore behind this creature is that it is known as a hexen wolf. It is said that the 7-pointed stars painted on barns to dissuade the snallygaster are actually a symbol of the wolf. From what I can tell, apparently the dewayo is capable of killing a snallygaster. Let's move from dogs and bird-like creatures and look at a being of the feline variety. This creature is known as the Wicomico cat. In the autumn of 1980, 4 teenagers were hanging out in their car at the local landfill in Wicomico County. As the night went on, one of the members was shocked to see a pair of glowing yellow eyes staring at him through the window of the car. Terrified, the group left the area as quick as they could. However, curiosity would get the better of them, and they decided to investigate the area after they picked up some more friends. This time when they returned, they had 2 vehicles, and they parked in a way so that the headlights lit up as much of the landscape as possible. The group all waited in silent anticipation, just hoping to catch a glimpse of what had scared them previously. The hours drug on without seeing anything, and finally they were all ready to call it a night. It was then that someone noticed a large black figure in a sitting position by a group of trees. Everyone watched in horror as they saw this being slink and twist between the lights of the cars. Before long, the creature emerged into full eyesight, and it was something from a person's nightmares. It had a sinewy body that was covered in shaggy black fur. It had a long skinny tail that whipped about. It had long claws in each foot, and its face was a mix between a human and a cat. The beast then charged at one of the vehicles and grabbed a hold of the driver's side door. It then used one of its arms to start pounding on the glass. This was enough action for the group, and the driver tried to quickly get away. It was at this point they realized the creature's claws had become stuck in the door. As they drove away, the catman let out a high-pitched scream until it finally freed itself. The group immediately stopped at the police station and filled out a report. The next day, they inspected the car and saw very deep claw marks in the middle of the door. The police searched the landfill but couldn't find anything. There were other reports of the same creature afterwards, but none had such details as this. It is interesting to note that the Native American tribes in the area did have legends of such a being. As such, they feared the creature since it was known to kill humans. Some feel that due to the human-looking face, it could have been an experiment that went wrong, or something in the landfill mutated a normal cat. I just wonder if they didn't come across the normal panther. Finally, we're going to look at one of the more popular cryptids in Maryland, and that would be the goatman. This half-man, half-goat-like being is said to roam about the forests and roads around the Beltsville and Bowie areas. While most creatures I talk about are fairly cut and dry, this one has an odd inclusion, and that is a backstory. Some claim this being started off as simply a sheep farmer who transformed into the creature after making a blood oath when some teenager snuck onto his property and killed his livestock. However, the most common story is that he started out life as a scientist working at the Beltsville Agricultural Research Center. After a failed experiment involving the splicing of DNA, he mutated into this cryptid. Whatever the story is, many claim to see this 7-foot-tall goat man with shaggy dirty white fur roaming about the area carrying an axe, like some cryptid form of Jason Voorhees, minus the mask and machete. Legend goes that he was first responsible for killing a dog and then moved on to humans. There are stories that he made a bit of a habit of attacking vehicles and is strong enough to cause a lot of damage. This creature is known to actually break into people's homes to attack them, but it seems its favorite haunt is on Fletchertown Road. This is locally known as Lover's Lane, and he has been spotted outside the windows of many people's cars while they were hoping for some other type of non-paranormal activity. The other location that this creature likes to visit a lot is an overpass known as Crybaby Bridge. With the backstory and such, I would find this being questionable, but there are a lot of similar looking cryptids seen in other states. Not to mention, tales of similar beings were frequently talked about in ancient myths. A fan named Vladimir Bonilla talked about a sighting he had back in 2009. He was picking up his girlfriend at the time from her aunt's house near Bowie. While waiting for her to leave the house, he noticed a large 7-foot-tall creature with shaggy dirty white hair, with horns on its head and hooves for feet, slipping into the nearby forest. Vladimir feels that the creature didn't see him since he escaped the encounter without anything bad happening. Since that time, he has parked at Crybaby Bridge and has been treated with the sounds of heavy stomping, low grunts, and blood-curdling screams. So, who knows? There may be more of this cryptid than meets the eye. Let's look at a few of the state's honorable mentions. It goes without saying that much like any other state, there are high numbers of Bigfoot sightings, such as the famous Sykesville monster. I also saw reports of a creature known as the What Is It? Or Jabberwock. For some descriptions, it appears to be a reptilian, but most others claim it simply was a version of the Jersey Devil. From the late 1880s until January 30th of 1909, people in Greensboro kept finding odd hoof prints in the snow on the ground and on their roofs. Its description matched completely with the Jersey Devil, and since that cryptid has been known to venture as far north as New York, I figure, why couldn't it head south as well? I am sure the name was given to it from the 1871 poem titled Jabberwocky by Lewis Carroll, and was included in his sequels to Alice in Wonderland. A real oddity was suggested to me by a subscriber named Vladimir Bonilla, and it is simply known as the Boa Man. I couldn't find much of this being, other than it was apparently spotted near Lanham Severn Road in the city of Bowie, which is part of Prince George's County. This being is described as being part human and part snake. It was seen in 1971, and it did attack one young girl. This being is frequently lumped in with the goatman, but they are obviously quite different. A possible link came from a longtime subscriber of mine named Susan B. She said that while driving on Route 68, she saw a human-like being that was naked, bald, and green in color entering the tree line. Susan said she noticed the skin had what appeared to be blisters or bumps covering it. Maybe this sighting was of the Boa Man. In a sense, I have to wonder if this wasn't a cryptid, but rather a reptilian alien. Finally, there is a real oddity in the form of a dire chicken. A few years ago, a creature that looked like a brown feathered chicken that stood 4.5 feet tall was encountered by a group of people. It was said to look exactly like a giant rooster, and apparently it was fairly friendly. That is, until it attacked one of the party members, leaving deep scratches in the skin. Now, I must mention that people frequently mention the blue dog, demon cat, and bunny man when talking about Maryland. While all three have interesting stories, I'm not including them here. The bunny man, from what I could tell, was simply a deranged human being dressed in a bunny suit. The blue dog is a spirit that guards supposed treasure, and the demon cat is incredible, but again, takes more of a spirit form. The creature known as the snarlygaster is also a form of a spirit black dog that has a red glowing mouth, and will appear in front of vehicles. While the story is interesting, it is more of a ghost, and not a cryptid. So in ending this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and that I made Maryland viewers proud. This state had a lot of creatures to choose from, but many of the sightings were lacking in detail. As such, I didn't talk about a lot of them, but I do implore you to look into what this area does have to offer. I want to extend a huge thank you to Vladimir Bonilla for a lot of resource material, and also I want to thank Susan B for sharing her story. If you haven't yet done so, do please consider subscribing to my channel for more content like this. Also, it would be greatly appreciated if you would share my videos with someone you know who may enjoy this type of genre. With that, be safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.